सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Okay, so now the question, we were doing verse 12, chapter 2, which where Lord Krishna was saying that there was never a time that he was not, there was never a time that Arjuna was not, and there was never a time that all these kings that he sees were not. Okay, so that is, so if body is my nature, then this statement cannot hold, right? Because everybody has a birth date where the body was born, right? And then the body is going to certainly go one day. So this statement shows the fact that you are much more than this body, mind, sense complex. Okay? But our identification is entirely with this body, mind, sense complex. So we have to start, before he explains what is the nature of Atma, he has to negate what you are not. Okay? So therefore it started by saying, we don't make a statement, I am the body, but we not only make a statement like I am fair, I am tall, I am a male or a female. So when you make that statement, implicit in that statement is your assumption that I am as good as the characteristic of my body, right? Now, and it's not even as simple as that, that I take myself to be body, but I take on a lot of attributes of body as attributes of I, and then as a result I have many complexes. Okay? So that means very often you see people, you know, if they are not fair, especially in India, they have this huge complex of not being fair. Okay? So it's not even a simple mistake that we make, we add it on with further loads. Okay? Or for example, if you are not tall, then you feel, oh, I'm short. Or most of the time nowadays, everybody feels that I'm fat. That is something that everybody has a problem with, because somehow you find all these models who are like thin like sticks, and they become the ideal. So everybody not only thinks of oneself as a body and takes on the characteristics of body as my characteristics, but and further loads that with lots of complexes. Okay? So that means when I know that I am not as good as the body, if you understand it correctly, it is highly freeing in terms of, you know, what self-image I have. Okay? Now, another thing which is extremely important to understand, when I say I am not the body, what is the logic that I used? It's something that I objectify. So we categorized the whole world as Drik and Drishya. Drik is the seer and Drishya is the seen. Okay? Whatever is seen by me, what is distinct from me. So for example, I see the table, it is distinct from me. I never take on the characteristics of the table that I see. Okay? Just like everything that else that I see, even though it is very close to me, I don't take on the attributes of an object, because I am the subject who observes the object. Okay? Now even all the other bodies, I don't mistake myself to be what? The bodies of everybody else. It is only with reference to one body a mistake is made. Okay? But like every other body, this body is also what? Nothing but cells. Okay? And one cell, everybody knows, is not I. So when one cell is not I, many billions of cells coming together to perform these amazing functions, multifunctions, okay, it does not become I. So this is something, is the logic. Nobody can negate that logic. Okay? Something that I observe and something which keeps on changing, and I am very much present, okay, to know the changing body, and its capacities are changing, the capacity of my senses are changing, the cells at a certain level are changing all the time, but I remain the observer. The observer never takes on the attribute of observed. That's a logic. Okay? Now, that means that I'm making a mistake. I'm making a mistake. What is an object is taken to be the subject. Okay? Now, that does not then mean, people think, oh, I'm not the body, so then what? I have to be indifferent to the body. That's not what Lord Krishna is saying. Okay? The house is not you doesn't mean that you don't take care of the house and you don't keep it well. Okay? The car is not you, but doesn't mean that you just kind of, make an accident anywhere and you are indifferent to it. It is an object and you still need to take care of it. Right? You don't add one more message that, oh, I am not the body, so now I should completely be indifferent to the body. That's not what we are saying. It is an asset that is given to you. It is the greatest gift that is given to you. You take care of it, but don't suffer from its limitation as limitation of I. That means it's only cognitive. Very, very important, right? Because otherwise people go to other extreme and they said, oh, I'm not the body, so just, be in. That's not what is said. It's just a fact. What is an object has to be understood as an object and not as a subject. Only that cognitive shift. Okay. Now, what happens with reference to mind? Again, all the different attributes of mind I take on as my attribute. The logic is again that every thought comes and goes. The thought itself lasts for how long? Seconds. Even if you want to stretch, you have a happy thought, you try to stretch that thought to 3 hours. Is it possible? It's impossible. You can have related thoughts and you can have thoughts by association, okay, which are many, but having one topic. But by definition, you cannot prolong the existence of thought for more than a few seconds. Okay? So again, what is the relationship of I with all the different thoughts that are taking place in my mind? Okay? The thoughts come and go. If I went along with the thought, who will be the observer who knows, right, the absence of one thought and presence of another thought? Okay? So you are the invariable presence because of which different thoughts that happen in your mind are known by you. Okay? Now here again, I think last time Malay asked a very, very good question. Okay? So because the mind itself is nothing but thoughts, but it has 4 different functions. Okay? 4 very important functions. One is what we call manas, which is emoting mind. Okay? The second is buddhi, which is your capacity to understand, discriminative capacity, intellectual capacity. This is buddhi. Then there is your memory, which is chittam, and then there is ahankara, which is what? Your sense of I, which gets connected to your manas, it gets connected to your buddhi, it gets connected to your chittam, and that's why it becomes an entity. Okay? Now he asks the question that once I understand that the mind, which constitutes of these 4 different types of thoughts, is not I, okay? So now I will say all these emotions, when an emotion comes, I will say, oh, it's an object of what I am aware of, it is distinct from me, okay? And therefore, it is not something, it's an object and it's not the subject. Now, is that all I need to do? Not really, okay? Because what happens is that if, for example, there is a thought which is the thought of anger or sadness or fear. So therefore, that means that when there is a thought and I'm totally taken over by that thought, that means that there is some distortion taking place. There is an external event, and that event produces a certain response in me, which is sometimes so much more than what the external situation calls for. Okay, so that means I look at the situation, I give it a lot of my own added value, and that is something, the mental picture that I creates that kind of an extreme reaction in me. Okay, so therefore it's not enough to just say, oh, it's an object and it is not me. Okay, one needs to at the same time look into that distortion, because even though mind is an object, mind is the only instrument you have, right, to understand anything, including Vedanta. If the mind is a projecting mind, okay, it cannot handle small things and it adds a huge picture. Okay, that kind of a mind, when it listens to Vedanta, will it create accurate meanings? No. In small things, if you can't see things as they are and you're adding on a lot of values, okay, you have only one mind with you. Okay, that same mind you have to use for everything. So it's not enough to just dismiss and say, oh, it's an object, so therefore we are not asking you to be indifferent to the mind. Please understand that. It is an object, is a fact, and then if you think that, oh, then I can disregard the mind or I can ignore the mind, is your conclusion which is not accurate. Okay? So even though it is an object, it is an object that you have to use to know the reality of what is the nature of I. And because you have to use it, you need to cultivate it. Okay? So you have to have a prepared mind in order to understand what is Vedanta. Because imagine if Vedanta is saying you are limitless, okay, and you with your own mind is feeling very angry. How a person who's totally taken over by anger is going to understand the limitlessness? It's just not possible. So you have to have a healthy, objective, nourished, well-nourished, refined and cultivated mind. Because that mind becomes an instrument through which you can then appreciate your true nature. Okay? So therefore, it is superficial to think that just, oh, the inquiry is just, it's not I, it's not I, it's not I, and then everything is understood. Okay? The lot of work goes in not only understanding what Vedanta says about the nature of I, but what? Preparing the mind to understand accurately what Vedanta says without adding your own picture. Right? So therefore, emotion is not I, it is true. Intellect is not I, it is true. Memory is not I, it is true. The sense of I that I have is not exactly I, it's true. But even to remember what is going on, you need your memory. Okay? Last class and today's class, what is the connection? If you can't hold it, how will you understand Vedanta? If you don't, if your cognitive capacity is impaired, how will you understand Vedanta? Because cognitive capacity, as Mona says, is also discriminative capacity. So if everybody, you know, people say they like, people have at times not very refined thinking. They have good intentions but not very refined thinking. Everybody just makes a statement, oh, all the religions say exactly the same thing. Is it? You need to examine. Right? So that means at some people think that you are a sinner. Some religions say that, and then you will be doomed to eternal hell. And when we are talking about the fact that you are limitless, there is a huge difference in what people are talking about. And you can't start with one assumption that everybody is saying the same thing. when people are saying different things, your buddhi has to be able to see those differences. In science, you don't start by saying everybody is right. No. You start by being interested in knowing what the reality is. And it is nothing personal, right? Is you disagree with somebody, there is nothing that you don't like the person or you are not accepting the person. But if it does not correspond to reality, you have to be able to reject it. You can't start with an assumption that everybody is right. That would be a mind which is totally non-discriminating mind. The whole academics, what? You test people at the end in the exam, what? You have certain intention that you want to convey. Now what do you test them on? How accurately they have understood what you want to convey. You can't start by saying everybody is right. You can't do that. Okay? So that means if there is a text which is Gita and it has its intention and it starts with a certain vision of yourself, and that vision is different from what others say, you have to be able to see that. Okay? So that discriminative mind is something which is extremely necessary. Okay? Truth can only be arrived at when you negate what is not the reality. And for that capacity is given through your discriminative mind, your intellect. Okay? So therefore you need it and you need to cultivate it. That critical thinking, analytical thinking is very, very necessary. Otherwise, in the name of spirituality, people give very simplistic messages and everybody buys everything. Because they give a message that, oh, your intellect, your logical mind will not understand this is spiritual. Okay? So that means spiritual means you put aside your logical mind and then what? People are taken for a ride. Because once you put back your thinking capacity, then what? You become very gullible. You just swallow ideas because you cannot examine them with your intellect. We are not saying that. In fact, you need your intellect very much to understand Vedanta.
So here's a thought, Neema. I often wondered, so I've been trying to read Gita, trying to do various other beliefs I go by. If my friend is going, I'll go just out of curiosity.
Yes.
And I often feel that, I don't have that bhakti bhav. Bhakti bhav means complete surrender, without thinking. I'm too much into that, thinking through and analyzing. And sometimes I wish I would not, because I would just, some people are just in love with their guru, in love with their ideology. I am still not there.
But it is wonderful. Because
I wish I could.
See, it depends, I think it depends, because if your critical thinking is very much necessary, that will make you see whether what that person, how will you decide, okay, whether what that person is saying is the truth or not.
No, I understand all that. But there has to be a time when you just say, what, let me put this hat away and just go. That pure belief. That bhakti, you know what I'm saying? That bhakti, we discussed that, right? The bhakti part.
The bhakti part is something that when it comes from understanding certain realities and when it is in keeping with what is, it is beautiful. But if it is your imagination, then that will collapse one day because it is not corresponding to reality. Okay? I'll give you real examples. Okay? Real, true life examples where there was one guy who was a greatest devotee of this Balaji, this Tirupati. Okay. And he used to go every year and do some very elaborate pujas and this and that. And he really considered himself as a devotee, right? Really with very good heart. And a few years ago, he lost his young son in an accident. Okay. Now, that so much devotion without really understanding what is the nature of Ishvara that I'm related to. Okay. Now, when he lost his son, what happened? He had almost hatred towards this God to whom he was so devoted. He says, I was such a good devotee and see what happened to me. So why is God so unfair to me? Okay. So what I'm saying is, if we had really understood what is the nature of Ishvara that Lord Krishna is talking about, okay, then even though these kind of challenges come in life, everybody's life will have challenges. Okay, then this thing of why me will not happen. You will be equipped to deal with every situation that comes along. Okay, and therefore it's very important, that yes, you have to, that devotion will naturally come out of your understanding of what is. If it is a partial or it is a vague understanding, it will fall apart one day. Because situations will come for which you will have no answers, and then your so-called Shraddha, so-called faith will go away. But if you understand things accurately, then it will, it will carry you through. It will enable you to handle anything. So that's why one has to invest in knowing things, and knowing things accurately, in keeping with what is. Because otherwise whole life is lived with vagueness, partial knowing, and that never satisfies us. Because at one point that will all shake the nature, because in fact it is good that it is shaken, so that what? You can actually move forward. Life is designed in a way that if you are holding on to untruth, which is not the total picture, then that will be shaken one day. There is a very nice story in one of the Upanishads, and it says that there was a person who comes in a king's court, and he was accused of stealing something. So the king says that, okay, I'm going to give you this very hot iron rod. You hold it. If you're holding on to, if you are innocent, it will not burn you. And if you're guilty, then it will burn you. Okay, so this is a test. So that means the king is going to decide whether the person is innocent or the person is guilty by seeing whether that thing burns you or not. Okay. Now this rod is a test, what? The life situations. If you are holding on to the truth, what? It will not, life situations will not overwhelm you. But if you are holding on to your concept, your ideas, which are not accurate, then what? Somewhere or the other, it will fall apart. Okay? So our whole teaching of Bhagavad Gita is not an advice. Lord Krishna is not telling Arjuna, oh, this is how you should be, this is how you should not be. It is all focused on realities. Knowing what is and realigning your life in keeping with those realities. Because if your understanding is not in keeping with reality, at one point or the other, it will break down. It has to. Because life, in fact, the life takes you towards this reality. Until you understand the reality accurately and realign your life with it, you will never be satisfied, and you will keep on searching. And that's exactly what happened to Arjuna. At one point, all his concept of success, what he was looking for in life, the whole thing collapsed. That's when he began to search. That's when he wanted to know the realities. Otherwise what? He knew Lord Krishna for a very long time. He never asked him. Okay? But life takes you forward towards that reality, and you have to collapse those possibilities. Those chances are given to you, but you have to use your free will to what? Help yourself to knowing these realities. Okay? So therefore, blind belief is something which is not very healthy. Okay? But if you close yourself to saying, oh, Gita, oh, it must be saying something, okay, which is just, yeah, it is talking about detachment, and is talking about, you have your own ideas of what Gita is talking about, and you're not even looking into it with an open mind, then that again is what? Wasted opportunity. So one way, either you have too much faith, or you have absolutely, you don't even give it a chance, you don't listen to it with an open mind. Both what? You're denying yourself the truth. So what is the disposition that you must have? Listen to it with an open mind. See what it has to say. Examine whether it makes sense or not. And if what it says makes more sense than what you understand life to be, then what do you have to do? You have to give up your ideas. If thought is an object and I take it as subject and suffer from limitation because of the nature of thought, what choice do I have but to re-understand it? Where is the question here? Thought comes and goes. What logic I can use to deny that? Okay, so that means it's all about realities. It's not about advice. Advice means it's relative. You can take that advice, you can say, oh no, that doesn't apply to me. But here it is logic, it is truth. What choice do you have but to understand the truth as it is? Because if you don't understand the truth as it is, means you're not in your whole understanding of who you are and what the world is not in keeping with what it is. Yes, so it is extremely important to, even though intellect is not you, you need intellect to understand the nature of mind, right? Even if the emoting mind is not you, you need healthy mind, healthy emotions to understand what is the nature of mind. Yes? Otherwise, it is a disconnect. What we call in psychological terms what? Dissociation. Okay? Vedanta is not simplistic. Otherwise, what happens is that people don't know how to receive Vedanta. So they very superficially say, oh, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not this, and oh, I'm this awareness and which is limitless, and they don't get anything. They actually use this knowledge very superficially to get away from all kinds of responsibilities for personal growth. Okay? Here it is a very, you will see, it's an extremely sophisticated knowledge. I mean, Gita is an amazing book. We will see it is so total in its perspective. Okay? So all this is not I, but it is something which is extremely important. Don't think that it is not important. Okay? But then, if all this is not I, then the question is, what is that I? Okay? Now, that means everything that you thought was I, which is the body, is now not in Druk. Druk is the seer, but it is in this scene. So that means the scene category includes what? Time, space. Every object in time, space is in the scene category. This body is also in scene category, no longer in the seer category. The mind is also in the scene category. Everything is drishya. Everything is an object of awareness. So what is the nature of I? The nature of I, according to Vedanta, is Sat, Chit and Ananda. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Okay. So what is it? Okay. So that means if everything is an object of your awareness, so what is the subject? The subject is Chit, which is awareness. Awareness as such. Okay. So now, where will you search for awareness? Right? When I am telling you the word awareness or consciousness, have you seen awareness as an object? No. Can you say this object is awareness? No. But you all understand what it means. So that means awareness is available to you not as an object, but as what?
Subject.
As a subject, right? It is the only thing which is without objectifying, you can understand that it exists. So it is available to you as an object. Okay? So that means awareness is something which is, when a thought comes, is awareness there?
Yeah.
Yes, to know its presence. When the thought goes and there is a silence in between two thoughts, even though there is a very small gap, there is a silence there. Okay? When the silence is there, is awareness there or not?
No.
Awareness is not there? Is there, right? You come to know what? You know that now there is silence, there is absence of thought.
Next thought comes, you don't know when you have moved to the next one.
Exactly. When the next thought comes, then what? Awareness is there. So awareness is something which is what? Invariable. Thought is replaced by silence. If you were silence, then when the thought comes, what happens? You will disappear. Do you disappear? No. Okay? Thought, awareness is there to know its presence. Silence, awareness is there to know its absence. Next thought, awareness is there to know the presence of another thought. So that means what is invariable? In the varying thoughts, the invariable is what? Awareness. It is one thing which does not go and come. It is something which is always there. Okay? So that means the whole universe is an object of awareness, and awareness is the subject. It is Drik. Okay? Now, you think you are this individual who is in the waking state. Okay? Everything that you describe about yourself is with reference to, your profession, your studies, your children, your husband, your house, your cars, everything is with reference to waking state. Okay? Yes? And in fact, in the waking state you have a mind which is not exactly the mind which is going to remain in deep sleep. Everything, you can be actually a millionaire, and you can, when you go to sleep, there is no difference between a millionaire and a person who is just an ordinary person. In deep sleep, the whole world and you who's relating to that world, the entire difference is resolved. 8 hours per day. Okay? So if you were this waking mind which is transacting with the world, if that was your nature, you will never be able to give it up. But in your own experience, you give it up every day for 8 hours. What does it mean? Logically, it means if something is my intrinsic nature, I can never give it up. The very fact that I can give up means that it is not my intrinsic nature. Okay? In dream world, you create a totally different world, and your character in the world also can change quite a bit. You can be very poor and you can dream that you are very rich, right? So that means the whole dream world is different. You and your position in the dream world is totally different. Okay? So therefore, that waker which is you itself is something, if it was you, the entity that was you will never be able to give up. But in your own experience every day, this entity doesn't remain with you. Okay? In dream it changes, and in deep sleep it completely resolves. Okay? So, but let us see whether awareness goes away. Right? In the waking, all the thoughts and your personality is one thing with reference to your chittam and with reference to your emotion and your intellect capacity, and there is a sense of I that you have. Okay? Awareness is very much there in whichever thought. when you create a dream world, dream time, dream space, dream characters, within those characters you are one of the character, okay, is awareness there or not? It is there. It is invariable. Okay, because of which then what you see the whole dream world that is created by you. So understand, thoughts are changing all the time. Awareness in the waking is invariable. When that waking person is gone and one creates a dream world, the dream world is different from the waking world. The you who is experiencing the dream is different from you who experiences the waking world, but awareness, does it come and go? It is invariable.
Continuous, constant.
It is always there. Right? In deep sleep, when there is no real thought, like the silence in the waking. Deep sleep is like silence in waking, where you have no thought. In silence in waking, when there is no thought, is awareness displaced? It's there. Okay? So even in deep sleep, there is no thought, the mind resolves. Because the mind resolves, one does not actively think in the deep sleep that, oh, now there are no thoughts. Because the mind is resolved. Okay? But is the awareness there or not? It is there. Why? Because everybody knows what is the deep sleep experience. Everybody knows in deep sleep there are no thoughts. How do you know? Unless there was the presence of awareness, how would you know what is deep sleep? Okay? Everybody understands that there are no thoughts. That means awareness is present, the thoughts have gone, the thoughts have resolved. So that means what is your nature, which is awareness, is something, what? The three states of experience everybody has to go through: waking, dream and deep sleep. The mind as it is available keeps on changing, keeps on varying. Okay? But one thing remains invariable, never affected by any of the three, is what? Awareness. It never takes on the attribute of all the changing things. That the changes come and go, itself is independent of it. This is reality. It is free.
Sorry, this awareness during deep sleep, I'm still not. Because for me, deep sleep is like a black hole, like a void.
Yeah.
I don't know how the awareness comes. I haven't got that far.
Awareness comes in deep sleep because, as I said, because your mind resolves, in the waking you have not only mind, intellect, the memory, but you have this I sense. Okay? And this I sense, you can say, it joins. It says, oh, now I'm feeling good. Oh, and now I understand this. Or you can say, oh, I was like that. So that means your I sense is getting connected and you're keeping on making some conclusions. Right? In deep sleep, all the four faculties are gone. So that if they were not gone, you would still be, if your I sense was there, then you would say, okay, now there is total quietness.
So that what I
Okay?
get.
So that means all four faculties are gone and still awareness is there. Because if there was no awareness, nobody would know. While in deep sleep, you will not be able to tell what is a deep sleep state because you don't have the mind. But upon waking up, everybody knows that I slept. Everybody makes the statement, I slept well. And today it was a very sound sleep. Without the presence of I, how would you even know that we have deep sleep state, and that deep sleep state, in that the mind is resolved? You have to have awareness.
It's not an extrapolation, right?
No, it is
You know,
because
one
it's an
is like
experience.
because of its lack of, you cannot give a name.
It is not extrapolation because it's a direct experience. It's an experience of everyone. Deep sleep is something that you don't logically arrive at. It's something that you experience.
You know when you've had a deep sleep and you've not had a deep sleep.
Exactly. You know. Okay. So that awareness, because of which, what different experiences of what different one mind, then resolving of that mind and rising of a different mind in dream, and total resolution of mind, and then again rising of the mind. All these things keep on changing. They come and go. One thing remains unvariable, and that is awareness.
Is it our intrinsic nature in the dream which make us act in the dream?
No, the dream happens based on our waking state. We collect some impressions, okay, and then we store them in our memory. Now, that memory is something which is there. So, but from those memories, we create a dream world. But we arrange all those things very differently. Okay, so maybe you have seen a movie where you see France, and you would say, wow, this is beautiful. So it somehow stayed in your memory. So 5 days after, when you go to sleep, that France will emerge in your dream, right? Because some impression has remained in your memory, which will then it will use, and it will create something else. France you have seen, and then you have seen your friend a few days ago. So now it will, in the dream world, you will think about France and you are with your friend, so you mix up all the different things and you create a dream world, but it is all created from your memory in the waking. Okay, but the fact is that awareness is something which is distinct from everything, and it is always present. Okay, awareness does not depend upon the conditions of the mind or the body. Okay, itself is independent of that. Okay, so now, up to now, when you do this inquiry, then you say, okay, now this physical body is not I, this senses and its capacities are not I, this mind is not I am the awareness which is invariable. Okay, now the question is, how many awarenesses are there? Because it may seem to you as though I'm distinct from this, so I'm this awareness, you are that awareness which is aware of your body and your mind. He is one awareness which is distinct from his body and his mind. So it may seem to you that there are what? Pockets of awareness. Is it true? Are there different pockets of awareness? My awareness is different from your awareness, and your awareness is different from your awareness? No, it is correct. Why? It is true. Your answer is right.
It's universal. It's your limitations.
Exactly. Now, logically, you have to understand that I can say that my body is different from his body because there are the characteristics of the body are different, right? My mind is distinct from your mind. It is true because the characteristics of the mind are different. Okay, but once I have said that all the bodies are not I, all the minds are not I is an awareness. Okay, in order for my awareness to be different from your awareness, it must have one characteristic which is different from your awareness. But which is the characteristic would be left? There is no characteristic which will distinguish my awareness from your awareness. It's impossible. Okay? Because all the characteristics belong to the body and mind, which is already not I. So that means awareness is how many? So everything is object of awareness, and there is only one undivided awareness. There is nothing particular about it. Okay? Now this is something which is amazing because you free this awareness which is self-evident to you from the limitation of the body and mind. It is interesting when Surya gives class, he has to make students interested, and he finds interesting quotes, and he showed me one quote which was Albert Einstein quote, and that really struck me. Okay, the quote from Albert Einstein is that this consciousness, there is no evidence that it is limited. This is Albert Einstein. Okay, but we are fooled by the visual perception, and we create an artificial boundary to this awareness, and whole life we live imprisoned by these boundaries. My God, what a mind! But what a mind, and Upanishads have been saying it for millennia. It is not ordinary. Vedanta is not ordinary because logically there is no other possibility. What characteristic will you give to one awareness which is different from that awareness? You have no logical evidence to say awareness is divided. Awareness is not divided, it is one whole, all-pervasive awareness. But it seems to be confined to a given body-mind sense complex. Like, just to understand how it is so, okay, let's look at this glass. Okay, yeah, and this glass and this glass are two different things. Sure, nobody is denying that. Now this glass space and this glass space, are they two different things? Are there two spaces?
Two different pillars.
The glass are two. There is no doubt about it. How many spaces are there? Simple physics. How many spaces?
Two spaces.
Are there two spaces? Then if there are five glasses, then
in an open glass it's the same. But a closed dabba probably it will,
Space is the same.
how many space? Time space, how many?
This is one.
One.
The concept of space is single, and the instance of the glasses are kind of a two, and so we feel that there is
Excellent.
glasses.
We feel as though there are two glass spaces, but actually the reality is there is only one space. The glass does not cut space. This boundary does not cut space. There is one all-pervasive space in which this glass moves and this glass moves.
What if it has a cover?
Even if it has cover, it will capture the air. It will become vacuum. But space, it will not divide. There is only one space.
See, the molecule of the
No, I just got
oxygen
it,
and
yes.
so on of the air can be confined, but space itself no. See, there is the difference between space and the air, which is made of these different gases, right?
So one undivided space, in that one undivided space are all the different objects. But what seems to us, what seems to us? There is one space here which is particular space, and that space is different from this space.
Size and shape.
Size and shape, all different.
Yes.
Okay, but what is the reality? There is one space in which everything else exists. Okay, same. Now bring it to awareness. Awareness seems to be confined by different bodies and different minds. Okay, like this glass space. The glass can be very big, the glass can be small, or it can be a different object altogether. a cup. So everything seems like different spaces, but the reality is that nothing actually divides the space. Space is one undivided space in which all the objects exist.
It's a scary thought. I mean, here we have strong likes and dislikes for, or you know, for people and stuff, and then you realize, oh my God, we're all one. And just,
So
I mean, the
vast.
conversation we had here, you know, they were
Yes,
so strong.
vast. It's so vast. So it is just your capacity of containing.
Yeah. That awareness is already free. You don't have to do anything.
And journey has to be just the vastness.
And
expanding.
it's just the journey is what? This artificial line that you have put here, right? And as a result of this artificial line, added burdens.
True. Very true.
So either it gives us immense compassion and empathy for everybody,
Yes,
Or-
it is true.
or it gives you a sense of detachment. I don't know. I'm trying still processing it.
Yeah.
I'm
See,
still processing it. How do I
See,
feel?
it is so contrary to what we have believed ourselves to be, not for during this lifetime, but if you take Indian philosophy, then millennia.
Absolutely.
Okay? So there is a jiva who goes through life with different bodies, different mind. So we have been living with this basic error of who am I, and loading our individuality with this error and compounding it in some way, and we are so caught in it, and our whole perception of reality is so much based on this error that we have made. So when somebody shows this, I have no way to logically refute it, but I don't know how to fathom it because it's so different from what I think about who I am. But it is something, if this is what you are, it is something which is shown to you here and now. Okay? It's not like a vague idea, oh, Atma is indestructible and all that is like nice ideas and we just buy into those ideas, oh wonderful, we have no clue what is this Atma and how it is indestructible. The whole teaching as Adi Shankaracharya, the genius of Adi Shankaracharya is, if it is the nature of I, it is available to you here and now. Right now, you can see your own limitlessness. Because awareness is already free. The teaching makes it known to you here and now, and not vaguely, through logic, through leading. What you are not and what you are. Okay, so this awareness is something which has no boundaries, it has no characteristics, it is attributeless. Okay? It never takes on the attribute of anything that it, like the space, when there is pollution, right, in the air or in the water, does the space become contaminated? Never. It's always free. It accommodates everything. It gives place for everything to exist. It's never taking on the attributes of either the air or the water or any earth. It doesn't take on the attributes.
So, how do we use this knowledge now?
Okay.
So
Now,
this gives us, in my view right now, this knowledge actually enables me to process things with more detachment. Right
In
now,
fact-
that's the only thing I can immediately see how can I plan my mind. Process things around me with slightly more detachment and resilience.
I think how does one use this knowledge? There is a huge section which is coming on Karma Yoga. Okay, so that is how do you incorporate this understanding in your day-to-day living?
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
So that is something that will come. It's a very extensive discussion, right? But first we need to get the realities right. Because what happens is that we start with a very wrong starting point, okay, and then we try to fix the problems, and they never get fixed because our fundamentals are wrong. Okay, so that means you start with a vision which is, as I said last time, a convex or a concave mirror. So that means you start with a distorted picture, and within that you then want to be slim. But the understanding is itself, the beginning is faulty. Okay? So now imagine if awareness is something which is your nature and it is limitless, and you have taken yourself to be just this little body and mind, which is one speck in the grand scheme of things. And now, taking that as reality, you want to feel good, you want to accomplish this, and you want to do this for what? Finding yourself, what? Free from all the sense of limitation, inadequacies, okay, sense of wanting, you want to free. But if you don't correct that error, which is a huge error, how will you solve the problem? It is impossible to solve the problem because the starting point is highly distorted. If you're free and if your awareness, which doesn't have any boundaries, and you take that, it is like this glass space being so unhappy because there is a room space which is so much bigger than this glass space. It sees room space and it is very jealous. Right? Oh my God, why am I born with this particular thing, whereas the room space, look at this, so big, and this room space looks at another space of a museum and says, I'm so small and that is so big. Okay? Whole life goes in what? Comparing, and the whole life goes in what? Taking this space as a reality and then solving. Oh, then positive thinking. Oh, be happy with whatever space there is, because you know there is a even smaller pot which is very small, and compared to that you're big. That is positive thinking. So we have all these different techniques to make us feel good. All the self-help books which are written to make this glass space feel a little better about itself. But the basic error about what? The space being free and only one, as though seeming to be many, remains what? Untackled with. As long as it remains untackled with, there is no truth there. It'll break, all these little advices, positive thinking, all this self-help and all that, it does its job. It's not that it doesn't, but it cannot solve the fundamental problem, because the fundamental problem involves a very major fundamental error about what we think we are. So therefore, we have no choice. If I'm free, what choice do I have but to understand that I'm free? What choice? Because I feel that I'm bound, it's notional binding. It's notional. So that means I have to free myself from that notion. I don't really have to make the space free, because space is already free. Okay, so this is the whole nature of the reality, that I, awareness, is something which is without any boundaries, and everything which is the object of awareness is something which is limited in time and space. So now, we still have not really understood Vedanta completely, because now we are stuck with two things. We are stuck with two things. One is the awareness, which is without any boundaries, which is free, all pervading, And the second thing is object of awareness. And what is included in object of awareness? The whole universe, right? All the objects of awareness means what? The tree, the bodies, the stars, the galaxies, the sun, the moon, all these are what? Objects of awareness. Okay? So even though awareness has no boundaries, but if all these different things, the objects of awareness, were totally different from awareness, will awareness be limitless? Will it be limitless?
Yes. Awareness
No.
can be unlimited.
No. Logically, limitless means there cannot be two. If there is two, one is very big, the other one is very small. Okay, that very small, if it is distinct from awareness, then it will limit awareness. Yes, logically not possible. Limitless means there cannot be two. Because if there are two things, one very huge and one very small,
It defines its limit.
it defines exactly. If it is distinct from that, it limits it. Okay, so that means now we have to swallow what? The whole object of awareness and understand it as not independent of awareness. That is a huge thing. Only then awareness becomes limitless. Otherwise, it does not become limitless. Logically, it is not possible. So that means first we divide the whole world into what? Object of awareness and awareness. We say object of awareness not only includes everything which is the world outside, but it also includes what? Your body, your mind, your body, your mind. Everything is an object of awareness. Okay? And awareness is distinct from all of that and is not confined by all of them. It is all pervasive. Okay? But that still does not, that still gives us two realities. One is awareness and the other is object of awareness. But if this awareness is limitless, then this object of awareness cannot be distinct from this awareness. Right? So this is the next verse. The next verse Lord Krishna is talking about, and that is an amazing verse which says, verse number 16, Na sado vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha, upayorapi drushtoddaha, tvadayostattvadarshibhihi. Okay, so this, it says, for the unreal there is never any being, for the real there is never any non-being. The ultimate truth of both, the real and the unreal, is seen by the knowers of the truth. Okay, now that is it's a kind of a playing with words. Okay, so now let us look. Now we have freed this awareness from any limitation. Now let us examine the objects of awareness. Objects of awareness, let's start with something which is simple called table. Okay? If I ask Dipesh, what is this object? What would you say?
So I say that again?
Yeah, if I ask him what is this? Just simple question.
This is an object.
It's an object, right? Object of awareness. But what is it?
Food and glass. Food.
Wow, you people are too smart. My God. Okay, now somebody I want who's a little simpler. Okay, table. So that was you attended his class, right? So this is a table. Okay. Now, but she's too smart. So let's say if I said table and she said it is wood. Wood and table are not synonyms, right? Wood and tables are not synonyms. So she's saying it is wood and I'm saying it is table. One of us has to be, and we are both looking at the same object. We are using the same language and we are using two different words which are not synonyms. That means one of us has to be more right than the other. And who's more right? I'm saying it's table, she's saying it is wood.
Wood is more right.
Wood is more right. Why?
It is limitless.
Limitless.
Because,
Yes, I understand. But can you define it slightly more? This wood is not limitless, but what you are saying, the idea is correct. Why?
Because wood is the main component of this.
Excellent. Okay. Wood is the main component in the. Is it really? In fact, what you are saying is right. Is the only component. Okay, so for example, let's forget that the fact that there is a glass here. Let's say if it was the whole thing was wood. Okay, now if Ratika says that it is wood and I say it is table, then Ratika will say, okay, you think there is a table here, let me take out the wood and show me where your table is. Is there any object called table that will exist if she takes out wood out of it? No. Okay, so what is the relationship? It is true, I am not totally imagining a table. There is a table. We are not saying it is illusion. Please understand, we are not talking about illusion here. There is a table. That's why Dipesh can put his mobile, I can put two glasses, there is a candle there. So we are not talking about table as being illusion. But in terms of reality, okay, I cannot say table is the reality, which I generally, our transactional world, we start with taking table as the reality. Okay, but the reality is that table is a form, okay, and there is a content, right, which is the wood. Okay, so in terms of reality, you have to now, table is not absolutely real, but it is also not unreal either. So you have to give it what? That in between reality, which is what we call in Sanskrit mithya. Mithya does not mean false, it does not mean unreal, it means that something which has a dependent reality. A dependent reality means without its content it cannot exist. So it's a form which is dependent upon its content for its existence.
It's a new word for me, dependent reality.
Yeah.
Wow. You should say, in B-school we are being hit, no independence. It depends, reality depends.
See, because we have no choice in English. How would you say otherwise? How would you use a word in English which will indicate the kind of reality that this table has? What word would you use?
What is mirage?
Okay, mirage is something which is, it gives it gives a vision of something which is actually not there. Okay, but here we are not saying that.
Yes.
It's not subjective. Please understand that this table that we are talking about is not subjective. Okay, it's not something that we are imagining. Okay, it has a dependent reality. I can't say it is absolutely real because it depends entirely upon wood for its existence, nor I can say it is totally unreal. So this is where mithya is defined as sat asatabhyam anirvachaniya. Neither you can categorically say that it is independently existing, nor you can say that it does not exist. It has that in-between reality, which is what we call mithya. Okay? So that means while using the table, I can still understand that in terms of reality, okay, it is not totally independent. Okay? But our language is such, our language when we say it's a wooden table, okay, what is a substantive? When I use a table, when I say it is a wooden table, what is a substantive? Table seems to be substantive and wooden is what? It is an adjective. So I give more reality to what? I think I give more reality to what?
Table.
Table, right? And wood becomes only an adjective. What is the reality?
Wood.
What is it?
Exactly. The real reality is wood. Wood in a form of a table. So our whole language, we give more reality to the forms than the substance from which the form is made.
What is it?
Yeah. So therefore, now this form is mithya, then there is wood which is the reality. So we call it a name which is what we call Satyam. Satyam is that which independently exists.
Mithya has a connotation also, right?
Exactly, it is only in terms of your understanding the order of reality that an object enjoys. It's not, there is no object called mithya. It is your understanding of the order of reality that any object enjoys.
So they're saying that सब मिथ्या है.
And which is a fact, right?
See, there
Because
is
Yeah,
there is
go
a
ahead.
difference between in Hindi when we say mithya and what we understand there in our normal language, and here how mithya is used. Because here mithya is used in a technical manner.
No, I understand.
Yeah,
But she said it's mithya, it's satyam.
yeah.
So in that connotation itself, satyam is truth. Mithya is not truth.
Yeah, so see, this is you're taking this conventional, let's say, meaning. Yeah.
So here we define, right? That's why we don't just use words. I think last time she was saying that she has listened to talks and people talk about ahankara, but they never actually say what it is, right? Everything is not like floating in the air. Ideas are floating in the air. Here, if you're studying our scriptures in a traditional manner, everything is defined, right? There is no vagueness. It's not like she understands one thing by mithya and he understands something else and everything is mithya. Everybody goes home thinking everything is mithya with their own idea of what mithya is. No. Okay, here it is defined. Mithya means that which has a dependent existence and satyam is that which has an independent existence. Okay, but the analysis is not complete because even this wood, now compared to table, now table becomes mithya because it has a dependent existence on wood, and wood becomes satyam, independently existing of table. While being in form of this table, does the wood ever take on the dimensions of the table? The wood can be reused to make something with a totally different shape. And while being in form of a table, it never is restricted by what?
Being the table.
Being the table. You must understand that. Very, very important. Satyam is always free from what? The attributes of wood. Now, the wood itself, does it have a dependent reality or an independent reality?
Independent
It
reality.
depends. The context. In this context, it is. But if you break it further down,
Then if you break it further down, then what is wood?
xylem, phloem and all that stuff. We used to study in botany.
Exactly, right? So this wood itself is what? Nothing but it actually comes from the tree, right? And that tree itself, what is all? It was a living organism once, okay? And it was what? It's nothing but cells. Without those cells, there is no tree trunk, which becomes wood. Okay, so that means this wood itself depends upon what?
Tree.
Tree.
Trunk.
And the tree itself, that trunk itself is what? Nothing but cells.
Cells.
And those cells are nothing but what?
Hydrocarbons.
Hydrocarbons, atoms. Okay, so that means each one is what? Now dependent reality. So that means not only the table is mithya, the wood is mithya because it depends upon the tree trunk. The tree trunk is mithya because it depends upon cells. The cells are mithya because they depend upon atoms. The atoms are mithya because they depend upon particles. Okay? So that means this table is just what? Forms within forms, within forms, within forms. Okay? And the whole thing is mithya because each one depends upon the other. Okay? If table is like that, think about any object in this universe. Any object.
So profound. Literally said you are coming and going, you have to be because nobody comes and goes.
So that means you look at galaxies, you look at the sun, you look at the moon, you look at human body, which are all what we call objects of awareness. Every object of awareness is what? Mithya. What? It has a dependent reality. Dependent reality, dependent ultimately on what? Forms within forms, within forms, within forms. Okay? Ultimately, in fact, scientists cannot find a building block of the universe. They don't know what is the final thing from which comes everything else.
God particle.
Yeah. And this is why they are looking for this God particle, which actually explains, what is the final building block. Okay? But what is the reality is that if you look at in terms of object, then there is never going to be any end. You can divide it further and you can divide it further and divide it further. Okay?
I'm sorry, my husband's waiting down. I'll
Okay.
carry on.
Okay.
And so I'll see you. The next Tuesday is on, right?
Next Tuesday. So you decide the time and then.
Yeah. I think it'll be 5:30 only.
And
Yeah.
Hello. I don't think I said hi to you.
How sweet! How nice!
I think I know only them two.
What? No, you met all of them.
Really?
Okay. So I will close now with saying that if everything is mithya, then what is satya? That is the suspense. And that is, we will come back in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate